So what I'm going to be making now is I've got a customer who's ordered a helmet. So this is what I'm going to be working on now. So the helmet that I'm going to be working on is a Bascinet helmet, a Bascinet clap visor helmet that this customer intends to use for training and obviously for battles later on. So with this helmet, with this Bascinet, I'm going to be doing it a little bit different. You haven't seen me make a helmet like this before. Essentially, there's two ways you can make a helmet. Two main ways that they can make a helmet. I'm sure there's more, but this is the two ways you can do it. The one way, the traditional, the historical way of doing it would be you raise a helmet. So what you'll do is you'll start off with one piece of steel and you will forge it and forge it and forge it until you get the helmet shape, which is a lot of effort. There's a lot of work that goes into something like that. And the helmet is, that will be the most historically accurate way of doing a helmet. There's a lot of armorers doing it. I've done it myself. It's I wouldn't necessarily say it's the better way of doing a helmet, but it is the historic way of doing it. However, like I said, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into making one of those helmets, and they tend to be considerably more expensive just because of the effort that's gone into it. The other way of doing it, which I would say not all, but the majority of armorers out there do it this way, just because it is faster, much faster actually, and a little bit easier to make. So what you'll do is, you weld the helmet. So this is a three-piece pattern that you make the two sides of the top part, the helmet, and you weld the seam together. So essentially what will happen is you weld those seams together, right? Once it's obviously been dished. Then you weld on the lower piece over here, which I will do later. I just want to try this pattern. I had a pattern, but now I've lost that pattern. So this is a new pattern that I made, and hopefully this one will work. Hopefully, because then I don't have to waste steel making this one. And then we'll weld it together and we'll go from there. It's a lot easier way to do it. It's going to be faster to be able to do something like this than learn to raise something. Raising takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of understanding, and you have to do it hot. You can't do it cold. Definitely you can do it cold if it's thin steel and so on like that, but the effort is incredibly higher then. I'm sure I've done that a video on raising before. Okay, so this helmet, because they're going to be used in battle, this is made 2.5 mil mild steel. This stuff is incredibly thick for armor. Even cutting it is a chore. I use my nibbler. The nibbler can cut it. It doesn't have a problem. The problem with the nibbler is it has to split the steel like this. But now, because it's so thick, it doesn't want to bend, so it binds up the blade. But if you can sort of torque it that you help bend the steel, then it cuts no problem. Then it cuts fine. It's just by itself it can't spread the steel like that, so that's where it becomes a problem. But this stuff is incredibly thick, and now I'm going to go dish it. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to dish it hot. So that's going to make it a lot easier. Previously I've dished this cold. The effort that goes into it. This thing, when I take my 2-pound hammer and I hit it cold, it makes a slight ding in it. It's incredibly thick. My normal steel that I'll use, 1.2 mil mild steel for majority of stuff, and then 1.6 for a bit more hardier stuff. But this 2.5 mil is incredibly thick. But it is the required standard for SCA combat. So this is what we're going to be using. This will definitely take quite a bit of a brunt. Right, so moving on to the next one, I'm going to start dishing them. and there you can see. So it's difficult to show now, but where it went from the flat piece, now I've got a dish piece. Everything is so much easier when it's hot. This would have taken forever to do normally if it was cold. So yeah, that took me a good 15 minutes to make that. Right, so carrying on with the Bascinet build, I've got the two sections all dished out, hammered out. So now what I'm going to do to show you is there's a bit of discrepancy between the front and the back with the point that's on the top, which isn't much of a problem. I will obviously just adjust the pattern. This is a new pattern that I roughed out, so there's a few things that I'd like to change on it, but that's now all fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to mark it that we get it properly flat. So what you're going to do is we'll take a piece of wood, you mount it on the back, right? So now what you'll do is you'll have an even spacing essentially from the back around the sides to the point. Now obviously the point is the high side. Now these sides need to be flush so they can mount onto that. So what you'll do is you mount it on a piece of wood, so it slightly raises that, otherwise it sits there. That's the space that you want to get rid of. So you mount it there so that it runs flat, and obviously that point there is going to be in the way. So then what you do is, if that makes sense, I don't think I'm explaining it properly. But now I've got an even gap except for where that high point is. Now I take a piece of wood, take my marker, mount it on there, and then I just run it all the way around. All the way around, and now it's helped to give me a very good idea. And if I cut that line along that line there, this side will be flush, that side I'll cut along there as well, so when I put them together we'll have a very nice flush side to come together. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be working on next.